All right, thank you, Robert, so much for your section of the project. My name is Natalie DiMarino, and I am going to be talking about the business communication patterns, business customs, negotiations between companies, conflict resolution and techniques, and the view of Americans by the Australians. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is business communication patterns. So Australians are very receptive to new ideas. They love to work as a team. They tend to work from the top down, but they do take critiques and suggestions and ideas from those lower levels in their companies to help improve and come up with new ways of doing things. They're always very modest as well, so they don't really prefer when people are bragging, or if, say, you hand them your business card and it has a lot of information like, oh, I'm the CEO and I've done this, and this. Accolades aren't as important. If you're sharing facts, they're okay with facts, but as far as bragging about yourself, they're not really interested in that, and they'll think that it's, kind of rude. They won't take that very well, unfortunately. So typically when Australians are greeting each other in a business setting, they greet each other with a handshake and a smile. They're not a very hug, kiss on the cheek kind of a country. They usually stay an arm's length away, so they're not trying to be invasive on your personal space, but never give a thumbs up when in Australia. That is not a good hand sign to be giving. And gift giving is typically not done in Australia as well, unless it's something, you're from America or you're from Europe somewhere. If you're bringing something that's customary from your country, that'll be accepted, but small gifts typically are not something that they do in Australia. During some of the first meetings in Australia, like I had mentioned before, business cards is something you hand out, but they need to be very factual, your contact information, where you work, your position, but nothing that's bragging too much about, your status or something that would seem, like, oh, look at me kind of stuff. You want to stick away from that. Australia, you definitely, like I said before, you don't want to brag. They're very, appreciative of accomplishments, but that's something that they value through your work and your dedication, not through being showy and flashy about it. It's always a good idea to stay away from political conversation, government conversations, questions about, Aboriginals or things like that. Unless the person you're talking to brings that up, then that is something that is okay to talk about, but typically not something you would want to bring up on your own. When you are going out to dinner or, going out for drinks after work, when doing business with those from Australia, it's typically customary to, if someone buys a round of drinks, you always take your turn to buy a round of drinks. You don't let that skip, otherwise you seem rude or unappreciative. It's not in their custom to switch or skip their turn. They are typically very, very sarcastic when they are talking, and that is a lot of the time between managers and employees. It's not just on your level, it's with all levels in the company. Their view on Americans, they are very much like us. They have a lot of the same, customs. Geopolitically, they are very, very similar to America. They have ease of access to all of our information as far as news, any magazines that we read, TV shows that we watch. They speak the same language, so they're very, they think highly of us because they view us kind of as the same as themselves. And for conflict resolution, they have a lot of the same laws and things that we do here in America. They obviously just have different names. They typically start with Australia. And so one of those examples is, the Fair Work Commission. They handle employment, termination, industry action, enterprise bargaining, some of the heavy stuff like that. They also have the Australian Human Rights Commission, which takes care of all sort of discrimination issues that they have in Australia. And that is all I have for my segment. Up next is going to be Erin.